so impressed because it's not just a fluffy, entertaining film festival. It's very educational and inspirational as well. We love the tributes. You learn so much about the different artists, and they're just so informative and so inspiring. So that's one of the things that we love. We love seeing all the fresh films, but we also love the tributes.
And we really love, the fact that we have really great people here. People like Roger Durling, who really brings in amazing people. Sometimes it takes amazing people to bring amazing people.
Yes.
And we love this because it's in the heart of what we do and what we teach. And how we really get out to teach that of filmmaking and editing, but also photography and design, and teach all these things online to millions of people. We teach.
The journey of these two soldiers is pretty phenomenal and fairly common, mind you, tempered by a narrative that's got to drive and deliver, but playing the counselor who's dealing with them, who actually got the privilege of working with about 12 real vets, spending the better part of a day improvising a session with them, delivering what has to be probably the most memorable experience of my career.
Oh, Mr. Plummer, thank you for your brilliance. My favorite film in the whole world is Somewhere in Time. Can you share a fond memory from the making on Mackinac Island?
Christopher, of course. We miss him like mad. That was the most horrendous accident that he went through, and he was such a generous guy. So that's really my biggest memory about that film was the tragedy that ensued immediately pretty soon after. And that nobody's got over yet, I don't think.
Do you stay in touch with Jane at all?
No, I see Jane every once in a blue moon. With our paths, of course, I'm very fond of her. I like her enormously. But we cross and we do say hi.
Can you tell me how you came to find the voice for William Fawcett Robinson?
Oh, well, I think I met somebody who knew him, the author, and that was sort of helpful.
Thank you so much.
International Film Festival, Doug Stone.
Good evening and welcome to night 3 of the 27th Santa Barbara International Film Festival, presented by Lynda.com.
It's so great to be back here at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival. I always love coming here. He is into his 8th decade of life, and this year marks his 60th year in front of the camera. But Christopher Plummer is hotter than ever. Now we're here at the beautiful Arlington Theater, one of the great Southern California classic theaters. Tremendous, and so many wonderful, theater plays and things, and so many theaters around the world. This is another one for you to chalk up.
Oh, absolutely, Scribble. Thank you so much for having me. That's marvelous.
So, are you a Trekkie?
Oh yeah, I was a Trekkie. Yeah. Back in the '60s, I watched those early televisions. They were wonderful. And Bill Shatner is a terrific actor. For so long, he played that part, but you could tell that he gave such variety to it that it showed how many marvelous other parts he could have played in all those years. And he did. He's a really wonderful actor and a very funny man. We had fun.
You actually have, people may be surprised to know this, but you have a whole history with William Shatner way before this movie.
Yeah, when I was professionally, I've been a professional actor since I was 18 years old. And at 18, it was in Montreal, and we were on radio together, both Bill and I. He was about the same age. And we played in both French and English on the air. We did French soap operas and English soap operas. A lot of people don't know that. So Bill and I really had a history, and they called me back 1,000 years later. Well, then he was my understudy in Henry V at Stratford. I suddenly came down with some awful kidney stone disease. Maybe it was syphilis, I can't remember. I couldn't go give my performance as Henry V. So Bill Shatner, this was in 1956. Bill was my understudy, and he went on. And I'm not knowing this, I was full of morphine. I was in great pain in the hospital. They found me staggering down the hall, and the nurse obviously said, "Come on back to your room." I said, "No, I got a performance with Henry V." And "No, sir, you're back in bed." Well, I learned the next day that Bill was incredible. He not only knew the part backwards, he did things that I hadn't done. He stood up when I sat down. He sat down when I stood up. He was extraordinary, that son of a bitch. He knew he was going to be a star. So years later, he called me and wanted me to play the Klingon, and I thought, God, this is wonderful and lovely. And it was quite an amusing script, beautifully directed. And I said, yeah, as long as I don't have to be made up with all those funny forehead things, I don't like that. That doesn't look real to me. Can I decide myself what I want to look like? Because you've got to have another kind of Klingon. Everybody's too used to these guys looking. So they nailed that thing into my eye. They only gave me one little wisp at the back, and I look like a sort of frustrated Moisha Dayan.
It was great, and I liked the vocal, the language that you chose to use, because you weren't really speaking Klingon here.
No, the best line in the movie was by David Warner, who was the head Klingon, who said we were quoting Shakespeare all through the film, and he said, "You haven't heard Shakespeare until you've heard it in the original Klingon."
You won the Golden Globe and the Critics' Choice, and you're nominated for the Oscar, the BAFTA, the Indie Spirit, the Tomorrow the SAG Award. This is a wonderful role, and it's given to you by a Santa Barbara native. Who wrote and directed it, and inspired by his own relationship with his father, who ran the Santa Barbara.
Yeah, it's just extraordinary. How unbelievably unsentimental Michael was about it, which made it so touching that he gave his character of his father such humor and such courage, and it was just a glorious role to play, and I'm eternally grateful to Michael. However, I'm still waiting for the first paycheck.
This is an indie movie. It's
yes, that's right, of course.
It's still, they're working on it, but it's but it's great, and and it's a movie that's going to live on. No matter how much money it makes in its first run, people are going to keep discovering it.
I think so, because everybody who's seen it seems to warm to it and love it. I love it.
Inspired by his father, did you come with any kind of special preparation for this, or what did you do?
No, I mean, how could I prepare for someone I never knew or never met or seen? And I was slightly worried that that Michael was going to be a fuss-pot about my doing his father absolutely correctly, and he'd be at me all the time. I thought, well, no, and not at all. I mean, he was so sophisticated about it, and so free, and it made me feel so relaxed in front of a camera. He just directed me superbly. He let me go, and that's the mark of a really terrific director who trusts people he casts.
The themes of the film they're so universal, and it's such an important theme, I think, in watching what happens to Hal at this point in his life.
Yes. Yeah. Because he dies happy and fulfilled.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's extraordinary how grateful he is and how relieved he is to be so happy at the end of his life. Yeah. That's a lesson I think we should all remember.
Yeah. It's a liberation of sorts for him.
Oh, absolutely. Extraordinary. Just extraordinary.
And I mentioned the dog, obviously. I mean, we should give him some props here. That's Cosmo, who played the one. This is a big year for Jack Russell Terriers.
Yes, and I think our dear little Cosmo was much warmer than Huggy.
In The Artist, yeah.
That was a circus dog. It was so glib. Cosmo was a real dog.
Well, we're going to hear from Mike in a couple of minutes, but I want to, before we wrap this up, I want to comment on a couple of other movies. You're wonderful as well, and another movie that came out at Christmas time called The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by the great David Fincher, another wonderful director.
Oh, fabulous director. Oh, yeah, wonderful. It's a terrifically good film. I'm very loyal to the book, really. I take my hat off to Rooney Mara, who plays with such courage and bravery, that wild and extraordinary role, almost pornographic in nature, and she does it with such courage, and God damn it, she's brave.
And got an Oscar nomination for that.
Deserves it.
Well deserved.
Well deserved.
And I have to say, I was, as you know, in Toronto at the Toronto Film Festival, where I saw you, and I was among I think I was in the first audience to see this extraordinary filmization of your legendary Barrymore stage performance. You've now turned into a movie.
Yes.
And that's a real treat that we'll probably see next year, I imagine.
Yeah, well, I think it's tomorrow, isn't it?
It's going to have its U.S. premiere here at the Santa Barbara Film Festival tomorrow at 10 a.m. And I think you're going to be there.
Well, I couldn't be there for a second.
Yeah. But that was a great opportunity to bring that role, which won you a Tony Award, to the screen.
Yes, I was thrilled with that, and I think it does work in a cinematic way, even though it is largely a stage performance, because he does Eric Canuel, who directed it so well, does pull it out into other rooms and other spaces and other memories and other times, and then brings it back to the stage again. And I think it kind of works. I hope.
I can guarantee you it works. It's really well done, and I've seen film stage shows before that don't work nearly like this. This has got a wonderful kind of feel to it.
First of all, I have to thank Pete Hammond for amazing moderation tonight. And, I know that Mr. Plummer doesn't, he doesn't like praise, and I'm going to keep it very brief, but I've never wanted to honor anybody more than Mr. Plummer. I'll explain very briefly. I grew up poor in Panama, Central America, and my mother wanted me to believe in art and took me, the very first movie I ever saw was The Sound of Music, and I fell in love with the arts and movies because of The Sound of Music, and I loved Mr. Plummer ever since. And I got a scholarship to come to the United States, and in 1982, just about, I came to high school to New York City, and I read that Mr. Plummer, yes, The Sound of Music, Mr. Plummer was on Broadway in Othello with James Earl Jones. I had never been to the theater. I bought myself a ticket, and I walked in, and Mr. Plummer introduced me to Shakespeare, and I'm extremely grateful for all you've done for not just me, a small little person, lover in the dark, but there's many others like me who in the dark have loved you for so many years. So it's also a great pleasure for me to introduce Santa Barbara local great filmmaker Mike Mills, who's actually coming home tonight to honor Mr. Plummer with the Mother Master Award. So please welcome Mike Mills.
It's a real honor to be part of your mid-career tribute, Christopher. And I feel like I need to warn everybody that, you know, he really is one of the more gentlemanly, gallant men I've ever met. But he's also quite a rascal. You should know this. One of our very first rehearsals, I said to Christopher and Ewan McGregor, I said, "You're gay, Christopher. Go to Barney's." And Ewan, take him to Barney's. "I want you to buy a scarf." He wears scarves. I gave him $200. I said, "Ewan," I didn't know Christopher that well. I said, "Ewan, you know, he's 79. Take care of him. Make sure nothing happens." I'm used to taking care of my father. On the way there, Christopher starts looking at Ewan's legs kind of a lot and says, "You know, what are those? What are you wearing?" And Ewan says, "Well, they're skinny jeans." And Christopher says, "They're quite tight." You know? And Ewan says, "Well, yeah, they're skinny jeans." They get to Barney's. Ewan dutifully goes to the scars as I requested. Christopher heads off to the jeans bar. According to Ewan, he flirted with everyone. He bought several $100s worth of jeans at much more money than I gave him. He doesn't carry money with him. Ewan had to pay for them. When he came back, Ewan was sort of, you know, white in the face. And he said, "Mike, I'm sorry, I couldn't control him." You know, it was unstoppable. So that was my first introduction, you know. And it's very true. In his memoir, and you guys said this at the beginning, Christopher describes, you know, most actors climb up the ladder to security, to fame, to a safer world. And Christopher climbed down the ladder, you know, I think to a grittier, a freer, a more wild, and more real life. And at least that's the man I felt like I met. The scene that actually you pointed out here, where Christopher is explaining how they got married. When we were rehearsing it, he pointed to that scene. It was a fragment of what you see here. It was a very small little piece. And Christopher pointed at that piece and he said, "I need to say more here." And I love that he was saying I, that he was Hal, that he was the character, and that he had something I didn't know about my dad and the script. And I said, "What do you need to tell your son? What do you need to tell Oliver?" And to my very great surprise, he said, "That I loved her." And you know, I was really taken aback as, how did he know that? How did he know that my real father really did love my mother, even though he was also gay for their 44-year marriage? And when I was thinking about it, you know, Christopher spent his whole life wandering around inside the complicated, contradictory, crazy human soul. He spent his life thinking about and feeling about us humans. So of course he could intuit the complexity of my father's loves. And it was one of the many times I saw Christopher's mind and heart reaching out past the script, through the lens, to the people, to the audience that would eventually see our story. Of course, his years on the stage were training for this, but I think it's also this climbing down the ladder to people, to life, to you know, connection that is his great talent. Another thing you should know is Christopher will never love you as much as he loves other actors. So just know that. I got pretty jealous of Christopher and Ewan because like I'd hear them laughing all the time in Christopher's dressing room, and I'd hear like a snippet of some really scandalous story about Tallulah Bankhead, or you know, something really nasty that Noel Coward said, or I'd hear John Huston's voice booming out and Ewan laughing, you know, and I finally got it, you know, actors are his chosen family. And it was really beautiful to see this, the way that actors, the people on set, it's his tribe. And I started noticing that when Ewan really did something beautiful, when Ewan really went somewhere, and Christopher was, you know, off camera, he would reach in and pat Ewan, or he would do this little like, and a thumbs up. And it was such a beautiful little gesture of camaraderie and just love for what they do, for what they're doing together. There was another moment, actually you showed it, he's getting his hair moosed. It's a very incredibly important scene in the film. The character that he's playing is sort of expressing all of his lust for life and yearning. And the actor he's with, I figured out, holy crap, he's never been on a set before. Ronaldo, beautiful Ronaldo. And he didn't know how it worked. And Christopher's an amazingly worldly actor. You expect him to be kind of pissed or frustrated. And instead, Chris was like, he says love to everyone on set. And he said, love, come here. You know, the camera goes there, you come here, you say your line. we do it again. He silently, effortlessly, lightly taught Ronaldo how to do this scene. And it was, again, this like beautiful expression of actor camaraderie. In this memoir, I dragged out his, 650-page memoir. It's a little light reading. I dragged it out for this, and I found something I underlined before I met him. And when I read it again, it blew me away as much as the first time. He wrote, Orson Welles, the Marquis de Sade, Augustus John, Dylan Thomas, John Barrymore, each in his own way took life by the throat and forced it to its knees. I wish like hell I could have done that. I don't pretend to own a speck of their recklessness or daring, but damn it, I gave it the college try. First of all, what a freaking crazy list of people to put together. But what an inviting and I fell in love with him when I read that. I mean, what an honest and beautiful and opening thing to put in your memoir. But I don't really agree. In Chris's last scene in our film, of course, his character passes away, and Ewan cried like a real primal, raw cry that like made the set buckle. And Ewan, I said cut, Ewan peeled away. I came up to Christopher, and Christopher said, "Oh, he's gonna hurt himself doing that." And I don't know why I felt like I needed to apologize for you, and I said, I don't think he meant to do that, he just felt that for you, And Christopher said, "Oh, I'm jealous as hell as that." I love that he said that. There's so much life in saying that. There's so much desire. But the thing that made Ewan have that magical transference was that on our set, and I bet on all sets, with his words and his body, his knowledge of the soul and the audience, with his chosen family, and a few very dirty stories, Christopher does grab life by the throat, or at least he embraces life by the throat, and maybe that's better. With all he's done, on set with him, there's this palpable, life-affirming hunger in him. In the stories he tells, his work as an actor, there's this humility you can just feel, and it kind of says, a good life and a good work don't come just because you want them to. This humility fuels his powers of curiosity that leads him beyond the traps of being a legend, of having done so much work. And perhaps most beautifully and simply, there's just this daily dedication to working that I saw. Working hard will bring you all the magic that you desire. As Ewan and I would often say, I want to be like that. So, just how weird and strange that we're here. How strange and perfect that we're here in the Arlington, where my parents took me to see some of my first movies. On the street outside, my father would walk his real Jack Russell Terrier. One night, the balconies here, my father got obsessed with going up on one of the balconies. And I said, "Pop, you can't do that, And he climbed up into the balcony to look in the window, and the ushers came and dragged him down, and he was like, but it's me, I can look in the balcony, But here we are, across the street is the Trinity Church. That's where my father came out to his wonderful outgate priest. Just down the street is the museum that him and my mother gave so much of their life to. On Figueroa Street is a house that they both passed away in. And in that museum, maybe some of you saw this, there really was a show, as in our movie, where he invited everybody to bring their stuffed animals. I think I met some people tonight who I knew was at that show. And really on the wall of that museum, he did put a quote from the Velveteen Rabbit, as in our film. And the quote, part of it says, "The rabbit asks, 'What is real?' And the horse explains that becoming real is something that happens to you over time. Sometimes it hurts, and generally by the time you are real, most of your hair has been loved off, and your eyes drop out, and you get loose in the joints. But these things don't matter at all, because once you're real, you can't be ugly, except to people who don't understand." How strange and perfect that you would express my father's desire to be real, his desire to come down the ladder, away from a stability that really just made him invisible. You keep showing the world how to come down the ladder to life and to connection. You made my father real for so many people, and he would have loved what you did, and I wish you two could have met because you would have gone along so well. So Christopher, congratulations on everything. I'm so honored to be here. And I have a little something. Don't hurt yourself with this.
Speech Michael just made. Hand in him will come out. I love his generosity, and I'm jealous that he grew up here, because to receive this is just extraordinary. From my first trip, really, to it's part of this part of the world, which is one of the loveliest parts of the world. And I can't think of anything nicer than this prize. I'm sure I don't deserve it, but nobody's going to take it from me. Thank you, Mr. Hammond, for being, as usual, so generous. And you too, Michael. God bless your heart. I wish Ewan were here. I don't know. He was somewhat wonderful in the movie. That scene-stealing swine. He's always away when I get a prize. I don't know. He does it on purpose. Anyway, thank you so much. You've been so bloody generous to sit there for so long. Thank you. And thanks for